Paul, how we doing, man?
Well, other than being absolutely freezing in Augusta, we're doing fantastic.
Yeah, how's your cold coming along?
Yeah, it's coming along just
Coming.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Medicine
We'll be fine.
Medicine working?
Yeah, the whiskey's really doing
Yeah,
its
man.
job.
Good rye whiskey.
Yep, gotta stick with it. It's
I love it.
tried and true. It's
I love
proven
it.
stuff. But
So on our last show, in our last episode, we talked about branding, and marketing.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to marketing, and we didn't really go into that too far.
yeah,
So I wanted, today maybe to expound on that and how companies, make promises through marketing
Yeah.
to their potential customer, and then there are times where, those customers come in to, a restaurant or a business or a service or whatever the case may be, and they do not live up to the promises that they've made.
yeah.
Give me an instance where you've seen that in a company or a couple different companies.
Yeah, so we definitely have some examples of that, and I'm glad we're having this conversation about it because I think this is one of the easiest things to prevent. Because if you're going to advertise and you're going to make those promises, this is a very easy thing to present. And we've been working on a particular case. One of our clients is in the F&B industry, and for a period of time, what we were doing our job to promote, to market, and to do the advertising. What the guests were finding when they went into to be served was drastically different than what the promises were made through the advertising.
Sure.
And so this is something actually, there are some outside influences that are going on right now from a standpoint of staffing is just a challenge.
It's an issue, yeah, without a doubt.
Excuse me. But that, even though staffing is a challenge, this is, again, one of the easiest things to prevent because it's training. It's
Right.
really not even training. Like, you don't have to spend days upon days on this.
Right.
It is making sure that the standards that you are publicly proclaiming
Right.
are articulated back to your staff, to your team, to say, this is the expectation that these people are coming in with.
Sure.
And the vast majority of businesses do not see training as part of branding or marketing.
Right. When it is certainly an extension of that. It's an arm.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And the ones that do not take the time to include that in, they're going to run into it because once you've made that promise and somebody comes in and they're looking to receive
Sure.
that
Yeah.
benefit that has been put
Yeah.
out there, when they leave and they've had a disastrous experience, it's even more difficult in the world that we live in today for a business owner to survive that or to not
Right.
get hit because
Yeah.
of things like reviews. We got
Yeah.
Google, you've got Yelp, you've got Facebook, and it's so easy for people to sit there and start typing.
Yeah.
Now,
No
that
doubt.
being said, not everything that is put out online is going to. You got people that just have a bad day that are just keyboard warriors, and
Yeah.
do
It
that.
seems like now, it seems like everybody wants to are so quick to call a business out in public,
Yeah.
and just really ruin them. And it could be that, it's not necessarily 100% true, but at the core of this, let's talk let's get a little more finite here. So in this instance, we're talking about a restaurant,
Yep.
right? So when we're talking about promises, I would think that in this situation, it would be, your website and
Yep.
the robust, beautiful pictures of food that you're presenting, and the food coming to your table and not being what you've seen, not
Yeah.
looking anything like it, and along with your staff.
Yeah.
You talk about the experience that you're going to get at this restaurant, the service that you're going to get, and it just not being what you were promised.
Exactly. And that level of disconnect from what is publicly put out there and the line that you draw and the claims that you make.
Yeah.
And then you come in and it's a shame when I see some reviews on places that I like a lot.
Yeah.
From not only just like a personal standpoint, but like just a concept standpoint. If I think, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And there's things like, well, the food was great, but our server took us 30 minutes to bring us the ticket.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
you got it. Those types of standards. Like another example, I had some roof repair done years ago, and it was in a small spot, so it wasn't the whole entire roof.
Right.
But a few months later, after the job was done, I had to go in the attic to get something, and there was black soot and just crap everywhere. It got on boxes. I mean, it took me a long time to clean that up.
Wow.
I don't even think it fully got cleaned up until I moved out of that house and got all the stuff out.
Right.
And that's when we cleaned it up.
Right.
But it was shocking to find that, because I know that business has articulated over and over and over the quality of not just the work that they do, but the way that they leave things after they're gone.
And probably wear the booties when they come in,
exactly.
and the whole, taking care of your home and, customer first. Yeah. And that's unfortunate. It is, it's an unfortunate situation, especially from our end in terms of what we do. We put all this together for a customer, and, we make promises, help them, make the promises necessary to build their business and to grow. And then on their end, they're just not living up to it. But I will tell you, on the flip side of that, I've had some great experiences.
Yeah. Tell me about some.
So and this is going to be pretty comical, but so I was born with a water head, I guess. I don't know. So a normal hat,
A water head?
Not in theory, but in my head it is, because a hat like yours will not fit my huge head.
Yeah. Okay.
So I love hats, right?
That clears it up. You got a big head.
I've got a big head.
Got a big head.
I got a big head. So I went on a search for, instead of, actually taking them and stretching them and doing all this, I just got tired of it because I'm a hat guy. So I went on a search for hats for large heads.
Yeah.
Okay. And I found a company, which I've got on right now. I went through the website. I started searching, figuring out, what I wanted based on what they had to offer. And the entire experience from start to finish, I just ordered another one, by the way.
Nice.
So I went through, found what I was looking for. The minute I made my purchase, I not only got an email, but I also got a text. And it said, thank you for your purchase. If you have any questions regarding anything, you can reach out here. And then they let me know by email and by text that my shipment had been shipped and my hat had been shipped. And then when I received it, which I don't know how I guess they must get a notification, because the day I got it, they texted me and said your hat has been shipped, and it was packaged up really nice and neat in a way that it couldn't bend or
exactly.
It's good quality,
Yeah.
And it said, if there's anything wrong with it or any issues, text here and we will make it right. Okay. So when I was getting ready to order another hat, and again, I am a big-headed guy, so there's only so many places where I can order these hats, but they were the first place I was going back to.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
So I get on, start looking around, go through the same thing again, and I ended up getting in a text conversation with this individual. I'm assuming he owns the company. That's my assumption.
Yeah.
And it was just very fluid, just some questions about some things. And it was the whole now it's supposed to arrive tomorrow, and I've already gotten a text today saying that your order will arrive tomorrow.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. So to me, and I get it. When you're dealing with a restaurant and all the intangibles of that, and people, eating and all, and I get it. It's a little bit different than a hat company, but the premise is the same at the end of the day.
Well, so making promises in your advertising and in your marketing does not mean that there is not room for you to make mistakes.
Right.
Because no human is perfect, and no business is perfect either. But even in the midst of a mistake, so let's take food, for instance. So we order something, and maybe it doesn't come out exactly the way that it looked or we expected it to come out.
Sure.
There's a big difference between letting that go and just, oh well, sorry about that, versus acknowledging the fact that, hey, I'd like to know, what were you expecting? And start having that conversation. And it doesn't necessarily have to lead to like a comped meal. Most people aren't looking for that.
Get it all out. Get it all out.
What they're looking for is that acknowledgement. They're not necessarily looking for that comped meal.
Sure.
So we're not saying that there's not room for mistakes and errors.
Right.
To make those not an issue,
Right.
you still have to have had a conversation.
You've got to address
with how
it.
do you deal
Sure,
with these types
sure.
of things.
Yeah, so that brings me to another question here. So, in essence, a business is not looking for 100% customer satisfaction, right? It's more of, in your opinion, would it be more of the experience, or what word am I looking for here?
I would say experience, and I would say what you're looking for is to delight them.
Delight.
So
Okay, that's probably the better word.
yeah, and if you're looking to delight somebody, or if you're saying, what does that even mean? Again, somebody can still have a delightful experience, which delighting somebody is doing something unexpected.
Right.
So even in the midst of a mistake, if you have a process and if you've trained your team to communicate in a way that was unexpected, even if there's a mistake in the process, whether it be a hat, whether it be a restaurant, whether it be a home service type of thing, or it
Whatever
doesn't
the
really
case
matter
may
what
be.
it is.
Yeah, right.
If you've got a process and if you've done the training and if you've really articulated to your employees, hey, this is what we stand for.
Sure.
Going back to what we talked about in the previous episode of the distinction between branding, and marketing, and the brand stage of that, and really articulating who you are, what it means to be your brand,
Right.
that really needs to be articulated to your staff, to your employees, because they're your front line.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not always going to be there,
Right.
particularly if you're sending like texts out to a house or something along those lines. If you have not taken the time to say, hey, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, when we error in that,
And this is how we operate.
Exactly.
Right. So the first thing would probably be owning the mistake.
Yeah.
And saying, look, we were wrong, and addressing it on the front end, and then moving through that process with that customer and to make that right in a way that resonates with that particular customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
And I would not even say that you have to start with an assumption of what needs to happen. So, and there's been studies where, like, take restaurants, for instance, there's a lot of meals that are comped that still do not resolve the issue.
Right.
Because they're not necessarily looking for a comped meal. They're looking for an acknowledgement that, hey, this is what we expected. This is what we got. And there's a big old difference between the two.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's something that businesses, especially as we move into this phase of that we're in, and it really seems like it started after COVID, for some reason, where staffing is a huge issue.
Yeah, it continues to be. It's
bizarre.
bizarre.
It is very, very bizarre. But having those that plan in place, articulating that to your staff, and letting them know what you stand for, and how to go about solving those issues. That, look, we're all people. You're not going to bat 100, or you're not going to bat 1,000. You're going to have times where things do slip through the cracks, and you struggle some.
Yeah.
Right. But if you don't have that plan in place in order to be able to make that right, whatever that may be, and it could be different for each customer, in a way,
100%.
so you can't just throw a mass blanket on it and say, well, we're going to do this for everybody. But without those, those things in place, you're going to struggle at some point. And, and in order to stay in business and to continue to grow, you can only take so many hits.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like, a batter or a baseball player. He's not going to bat 1,000. We all know that.
Yeah.
But if he bats, 100 in the Major League Baseball, he's, at some point, he's not going to be around long, right?
Exactly.
So you've got to make sure that you perform, and you've got to make sure that you can go back and make those things right with those customers that feel like they didn't get what they thought they should.
Yeah, and another danger is that it becomes all about the owner or the founder or the principal. Like, they're the ones that make things right.
Right.
The danger in that there's two things that I think are very dangerous in that. Is one, they're not always around.
Right.
So if they're not always around, how are they going to make it right? And then two, if they're not around, and if they're not around permanently, I've seen this happen in businesses where
Yeah.
it's like it all became about the guy or the girl that was running the business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know somebody who's had a sudden heart attack, and that business is still around and doing okay, but not at the same level because it was all about him.
That individual. Yeah.
And so he had an amazing brand, was a phenomenal individual. Just you could not find a better human being, but never took the time. And Jim Collins talks about this, and I think it's good to great. It's the difference between a clockmaker and a time teller. I may have gotten that wrong, but essentially what it is that if you're not training your employees to know what to do and how to behave, when the person who does know how to do that, if they either move on or, God forbid, they suddenly pass away,
right.
well, then there's this massive void left in there. So that training employees
Yeah.
and making sure that they understand, going back to that very, very foundational thing of brand. What is your brand? How are you articulating it?
Yeah.
And then how are you supporting that?
Right.
I mean, it's such an easy thing to do, but it is remarkable how many people
It
do
gets
it.
overlooked so much, and it's a problem. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and our next episode, I really would like to talk more about how a brand can change over time.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to get into it a whole lot today.
Sure, yeah,
because
yeah.
Just kind of throwing this out there, and how you can't really you can't really put your brand to bed and not really go back and visit it for 10 years.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and going back to like the difference between your experience purchasing the hat and then an experience. Well, so we got three things that we've talked about. We've got an experience purchasing a hat, going to a restaurant, and a
roofing company.
And a roofing company. Now, what's interesting is that the roofing company, I may not need that for another 15 years.
Right.
So if we're looking at the buying cycle,
Yeah.
for roofing, there's a big time difference.
There's a big time gap
from purchase to purchase. But something like that is not addressed or an attempt to make right. Now, part of that is me letting the company know that something's screwed up.
Absolutely.
I'm certainly less likely to do that because it was so many months later that I discovered what had happened.
Yeah.
But it's all of these things are it's so important to get this right, to actually live up to the promises that we make through our advertising. Because if you look at that buying cycle, so we live our life, something happens that starts us into that transactional stage. So all of that time and previously, we were just in a relational space.
Yeah, which is what percentage? It's amazing.
95 plus.
Yeah,
95% plus.
It's amazing how long we spend in just the relational phase
Absolutely.
as customers. Yeah.
But then, as soon as we go through the rest of the buying cycle, the need or situation that triggers us, we look at our options, we do our research,
Sure.
we contact, and then we buy. The moment that purchase is complete, we're back in that cycle. So we either exit
Yeah.
that first cycle with a business with a good taste in our mouth or a good experience. And I'm glad you brought up the satisfaction and the distinction between satisfaction and delighting, because satisfaction is not good.
No, it's really not. I'm satisfied, but I'm not delighted. They're really two different things.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, businesses get caught up in 100% customer satisfaction. And, if you're just going by that alone, I mean, you haven't really made an impression on your customer. So back to the buying cycle real quick. For me, buying the hat, I bought, right? Great. And this was probably, I would say, close to 7 months ago when I bought this hat. But I realized that I needed another hat, right? Because I do sweat and things of that nature. So so my desire for another hat kicked me back into transactional mode.
Absolutely.
You see, so I went right back into it, bought another one, and who knows? I mean, I may buy one again in the future. I'm not there yet and haven't really processed that, but But yeah, so so there's two forms of marketing, and I know that we can probably go on about this, and these are probably things for later shows. We're just kind of setting it up a little bit. You got your marketing, which is basically relational, right?
Exactly.
And then you've got your transactional side.
Yep.
A lot of businesses don't really understand the difference. So in essence, your website, your reviews, those types of things are more into the transactional marketing.
Exactly.
Right? That's where people go when they, for me in the hat, I was kicked into a buying cycle from a need. Because I've got a huge head.
Yeah, big head. Are there Facebook groups for this?
I don't know.
Like people that require big hats for big heads?
It's been an issue my entire life. If I were to put that hat on my head, it would sit way up high on the last little dot, that little thing back there.
I've seen it.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, dude, you've got to lose weight. I'm not fat. I mean, I just got a big head, right? So where was I?
Oh Lord!
So
it was the buying cycle that you got kicked back into.
Yeah, so it kicked me back into because of my water head. So it kicked me back into the buying cycle. Okay, but I think it was a lot of business, CEOs and founders don't understand that there is a difference, right? You've got the reviews, you've got your website, and that when I was kicked into the cycle, I started doing my research. Okay,
exactly.
Where am I going to find a big hat?
Yeah.
Not only a big hat, but one that I like. That looks for me, right?
It's really got to check all those.
It's
boxes.
got to check the boxes. So as I was doing all that, so when I found this particular one, I started looking at the reviews. Okay, and they had pictures of other people with these hats on.
Yeah.
Just showing them, and I'm like, that was great. That's what I'm looking for. Tell me about the hat. And nothing against it, but if I'm going to spend the money that I spent on this hat, which was fairly expensive,
sure.
I mean, I want to make sure that what I'm buying.
It's more material for a big head, right?
It's more material. It's about 8 inches, but
yeah.
But so I want to make sure that what I'm buying is quality. It's going to last.
Yeah, exactly.
I can only go by the reviews. I can only go by the testimonials. I can only go by the website. So, and there is a clear difference between marketing, which is relational, and marketing, which is transactional. And the difference needs to be understood
massively. Massively. So, because there's a lot of, and we'll talk more about this in other episodes, but there's just a tremendous amount of effort and money wasted.
Oh man!
By the lack of understanding that the vast majority of businesses have.
Huge.
But and that's again, it's like one of these. That's the type of stuff that can be brand killers.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned reviews a couple times, but that's one of like the most tangible outcomes of promises made and promises not delivered.
Yeah.
Is somebody going out there and unless. It is impossible to get rid of those reviews unless you can win them back over,
right? And
they change it themselves, or you're just gonna have to bury it.
You've got to bury it, and that comes from a lot of good review, which you should be getting anyway. But
sure.
But if you get a certain amount of negative reviews, it's almost impossible to bury those. Your stars are only gonna come up so much. So it's difficult,
and it's not much different than like really bad emails that. You get enough unsubscribes and your deliverability goes down, and it is really hard to fix those things. So, but I mean that again just supports the need on the front end to make sure that you are incorporating just a little bit of basic information, basic training with your staff and your employees to say, hey, this is what we've done. This is who we are. Mm-hmm. This is what we believe. Because, I mean, people put a ton of money into to brand, to design, just even the tactical work of it.
It is. Yeah,
and
it's a lot of work.
They think, okay, I've checked this box off.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, I got my font, got my logo, got my website thrown together, and I'm ready to roll. Let's do
business. And
it's
a disaster.
That is a very, very small percentage of the overall, So, but yeah, so great discussion today. Hope you get to feeling better.
Me too. I hope this heater actually starts working.
That'd be nice. I'm freezing.
59 degrees in the office is a little bit chilly.
It's rough. That's rough.
I mean, I know that I'm not a fan of the heat either, but
got to find a happy medium.
Yeah, let's find that.
So let's get back to work.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
See you next time.